We should probably not include that then in our agenda until necessary, probably.
That is correct.
Next item is reports and recommendations.
Chair, we did need to approve the minutes.
Oh, sorry. We did not?
I thought we did.
We did, I think, didn't we?
We did the meeting agenda, not the minutes.
Okay. I'll ask for that motion in a second to approve the meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Director, you want to do the roll call again?
Commissioner Doskich?
Aye.
Commissioner Good?
Aye.
Commissioner Miller?
Aye.
Commissioner
Aye.
Commissioner Willett?
Aye.
Commissioner McCauley?
Aye.
Commissioner Darlene? It appears Commissioner Nelson has joined us. And Commissioner Itis.
Aye. Okay. Item 6, reports and recommendations. Director, do you want to give us just some guidelines as to what we should do on this?
Thank you, Chair. This is just an effort to complete your 2019 work plan. I believe we have it in draft form. I did receive some updates that we were missing from a number of commissioners today. So if you see anything in the 2019 work plan that you had completed and not submitted for final, this is kind of a reminder to please send that to me so we can complete the text of your 2019 work plan. We will add that to your September meeting for you to vote on, and then that will then go to the City Council. So I did look through, and we did add in for Initiative 1, naming a facility after the Yancey family. I did revise that based on the vote that you had taken to recommend the renaming of the Grandview Park. So that information has been updated. And I've also received today information on Initiative number 4. That was a study and report on the fields, courts, and rink capacity. So we have received that. That will then be added in. If any commissioners had any updates to Initiative 5 that you had completed, please send those again my way, and then we'll put this full plan in recommendation back on your agenda for September. You can review it then, and then that will be then forwarded to the City Council. So this is really just a reminder to get that information in so we can take the work that you have completed and get that in front of the City Council. If any commissioners had any comments, if they did see anything that was incorrect or they would like to add, please let me do that. This item does not need a motion or a vote this evening. It's just purely to get it in front of your review and get it finalized. So if anyone had any comments, otherwise we can move on to discussion item B.
Plan discussion. I don't, Director, should we go down these item by item, or should we listen to any comments by any commissioners that have been assigned to these?
Chair Itis, I can give a couple of quick items.
Okay.
Initiative number 1, that group right now does not have any materials to review from other commissions. That was a review and comment charge from the city council. It has a completion date of December for the end of the year. So the group that is reviewing and commenting on the flood risk reduction strategy and the climate action plan, that information will be forthcoming from other commissions to you. So right now you are not in need of any action at this time. So once we have that, we will get that in front of those 4 commissioners for review. Other than that, if commissioners did have any comments on the other initiatives, we could record notes. I did provide a few updates in the progress report that was provided in your packet. But if there are other comments from that time, that would be open.
Perry, I had a quick question, and as you ran away there, sorry. Initiative 1, I know, is more completed. We got that correspondence from the resident today. Will that, if that needs to come back up, will that be a new initiative, or would we reopen number 1, or is this something that at this point is a city council item and we've made a recommendation and now city council can vote?
I think at this time, because you were provided comment from a resident on the Dugan's Plaza project that's in front of the city council. Because that item isn't on your work plan, I would proceed with your recommendation today from that item. If you did, if the council reviewed the 2 and could look at them side by side, they would also get that same correspondence from the resident. They could then say, we accept your recommendation of the Garden Park renaming, or we would request that you take another look at this. But right now, I would recommend proceeding with your original motion on that 2019 plan, if that's the one you're referring to.
Yeah, it's just the one that's more completed around the Garden Park and the Yancey. So I didn't know if that changed now with that new motion, or if that's just something the city council can consider and we're still completed. So that was it.
I think the council would need to have some resolution on what the project in front of them is on first before moving forward with that. So just to be clear, that was the 2019 work plan initiative number 1.
Any update as to the 2020 initiatives by anybody that's been assigned to those?
Okay, that's what I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Initiative number 1 was a review and comment. You're waiting on other information for that.
I have one question or comment. As we talk today, Director, I'd like to get some feeling about the commissioners, that have been assigned to the different initiatives, about having virtual meetings, or should we engage in prudent distancing meetings in person?
Yes, Chair Edis. As staff, we would be able to facilitate with you hopefully a better connection, a virtual meeting connection if you so desired, or because your work plan numbers are smaller than your quorum, they're also smaller than the meeting guidance that the state of Minnesota has. So if your work group decided that they wanted to meet in person, we could facilitate that. Obviously, I think your max numbers are about 4 people roughly per initiative that could be held at one of our sites. We could facilitate a meeting room for you, or if you'd like to still meet virtually, we could accommodate that as well. If that works out, we could set up that connection for you. Some of our facilities have both options. So if those that preferred virtual connection and some in person, we could approach that from a hybrid standpoint.
Is that one of them?
I'm sorry, Chair, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, is the opportunity to use the community room, is that one of them?
We're currently not allowing City Hall use, but we do have a number of other facilities throughout the system that we could look at, whether it's one of our park shelter buildings or other facilities that we could host you in.
Does anybody have any feelings one way or another? I personally work better probably face to face or in a small setting. I'm about virtualed out. So I don't, I know the other night we had our Braymar Golf Association meeting and we opened up that to choice. And although most of the people said they were willing, we have about 11 board members. But there were 2 that wanted virtual only, so we went that route. But I don't know. I talked to Eileen a little bit today about doing the ones that she and I are on together in person, such as the meeting room at Braymar, which is can do both. So I don't know if people have a strong or a feeling one way or another.
I think if we, especially with the weather being nice, if we do it outside, it would be a safer thing to do.
We like to say mask to mask instead of face to face.
Like we could use green space up at the golf course.
Chair, if you'd like, I could draft an email to the initiative leads and just kind of give them options for setting up a WebEx, a hybrid, what room facilities we could facilitate a in-person meeting with, if that would help commissioners along getting the work plan groups moving onto the objectives.
That sounds like a good plan to me.
Yeah. And then we'll, if would you do that as soon as next week maybe, or?
Yeah, I could send something out right away to commissioners.
Yeah. Anybody have any comments about the initiatives that they've been assigned to, or?
I can give you a quick update on initiative number 7.
Sure. Thank you.
We're going to have another call later this week with this team. We just did a little further work on where our park acreage is today. And so just to give the commission a sense of what we found so far, we're beginning to look at the different quadrants and the way we serve the different quadrants across Edina, and then also the type of service that might be if we're well spread out through the community besides just acres alone. And so I just did a little work digging into the strategic report we had of a few years back, and so just to give the commission a sense for where our park and green space acreage is, about 45% of it is in the southwest quadrant. So Braymar Park, consider that as being a significant portion of that. 35% is in the northwest, and then about 10% each in northeast and southeast. So then if we look at it, another comparison, east and west, we have far more park acreage on the west side of Edina at about 81% compared to only 19% on the east of Edina. And then if we looked at a difference from north and south, there's a higher park count on the north with 27 parks on the north side, so north of 62, and 13 on the south side. So we're just trying to get a sense of where our park and green space is, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper into what other types of metrics we might be able to use and how else we might be able to consider our parks well positioned to service the community besides something as simple as an acreage count. So more to come in the future, but that's where we stand at the moment.
So I know you guys have done a lot of work so far, so we appreciate it at this point. Any other comments by commissioners on their initiatives?
Chairitis, I think Commissioner Nelson had
Yes.
some comments.
Okay. Cory?
Are you able to hear me? Oh,
We are
gosh.
now, yes.
Oh, gosh. What? I couldn't figure out how to unmute myself. Oh, sorry about that. So for initiative 4, delay, but I did get that scheduled, or I get a date scheduled. It looks like it's going to be this Wednesday, as long as it works for you, Rick. That looks like that's the best day for everyone else. I personally am okay with in person or outside. I have seen a lot of meetings at Centennial Lakes outside. So if those of you are on that group, I will reach out to you separately to make sure that everyone feels comfortable to do whatever they feel like. If it's everyone feels okay with outside, we'll do it outside. So that would be this Wednesday. And then I can get an update to the group. So I'm sorry, I am delayed on that initiative. Could you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Member Miller here, just a question, more of an update regarding Braymar master plan. I know we've got an initiative to look at alternative funding for that. My question is to Perry on that, like what is realistic for us to understand what could actually happen, and a realistic timing on when it could happen for a Braymar master plan, especially considering the pandemic and the financial situation that all towns and cities and states are in all across the country. I just don't know what kind of discussions have been had with the city council on what may or may not accelerate, stay in neutral, or put the brakes on.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. City staff, I don't believe, has yet had that conversation with the city council. They will begin their capital improvement program review this fall. So it is kind of an opportune time to look still at alternative funding models, whether obviously last go around we recommended to the city council and they did proceed with the local option sales tax request at the state legislature. Obviously, the pandemic interrupted the state legislative session quite dramatically. So that proposal was never heard in the Senate, therefore never included, and there was not a tax bill this year. As far as the Braymar master plan, I would kind of put it in the same category as the Fred Richards master plan. At this time, I think you'd still want to move forward with a recommendation for the full master plan and not segment it out. You could have that opportunity. We could discuss that further about prioritizing within the master plan for a recommendation. However, in my experience, I've kind of understood that a lot of the pieces of the master plan that don't get funded the first time around might not get funded subsequently after that. But as far as, setting the levy, where we would be on capital improvement projects, the city council will take that up this fall. So I still think it really coincides with the initiative on prioritizing the CIP. Staff has already started working on capital pages, capital requests. Assistant Director Peterson is our staff representative on the CIP, the internal staff process. So she'll be advocating for all of our projects internally. But again, it would be really nice to have that prioritization scale and then to kind of move that forward. There are various components in this that, if portions of it were funded, we could try to go after matching programs. I kind of reflect on the Fred Richards portion of it. A lot of that master plan is dealing with water quality, wetland establishment. There are county and state level programs that could help offset some of those costs. So it really kind of gets philosophical as you move this forward. Do you want to prioritize within that CIP? If we could get some funding for programs of this, it might equate to greater matches down the road from other partners. So at this stage, I think you'd still want to look at alternatives to that funding, and advocate for those projects as we head into this fall with the capital program. So I don't think I'd be ready yet to say there's going to be no capital funding, portions of capital funding. We do know we'll be tight. Therefore, that's how we wanted to finish up that prioritization process. So that's a really long non-answer for you.
I appreciate the direction. Thanks.
The only update I have on Arden, which is initiative 2, is that we're still waiting, right, on the HRRC to come back with a recommendation. Is that still correct?
Commissioner Strauss, that is correct. I did have a conversation with the Race and Equity Coordinator this morning. And as we get into the discussion on the 21 work plan, and we could talk about it now or then, the staff recommendation is going to be continue on with that initiative, but take the framework creation from commissioners and have staff generate that, and then bring it to both commissions for a review and comment, and then an implementation. We think that might take a little bit of the coordination out of this initiative. If we can both kind of work internally on what that process might look for you, what questions to ask, what's the right format, what's the right mechanism, and then have each of you kind of review and comment, and then work on the implementation for that initiative.
I think that's great. I will say Commissioner Osborne and I met, I don't remember how long ago it was, and we had a really good and productive meeting, I felt like, and then it has been stuck in this limbo land for a while. So anything to get it unstuck, I think, is a good idea.
So that will be our recommendation once we get to that next item, but we could entertain it earlier if you'd like.
Any other comments by anybody? I think that's it, Director.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. For this next item, we'll be introducing Tiffany Bushland. Tiffany is going to be giving you a report on the 2019-2020 outdoor rink utilization. Tiffany is a recreation supervisor for us. And she will be giving you a wonderful update that she meant to do last April, but obviously has been postponed due to the pandemic. So welcome, Tiffany, and thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Perry, and good to see all of you, your beautiful faces on this wonderful Monday night. Yes, as Perry mentioned, I plan on giving this report in April, but here we are today. I'm happy to be in front of you telling you how successful the outdoor rinks were this last year. So just a little summary for you. You can see in your packet materials, I wrote a report in regards, but I'll just break down a few things for you. So the city of Edina operates 12 outdoor rinks, and at each location, there is a skating rink, a hockey rink, and then a shelter building. And we staff those shelter buildings. They're staffed 7 days a week. We hire about 50 seasonal staff to work the shelter buildings. I'll put out a plug right now. This is a fantastic job for a high school student. We have to hire a large amount of them, so recruiting for this job is important. So we hire about 50 seasonal staff that work these shelter buildings, open 7 days a week. This last year, in the 2019-2020 season, we were open for 71 days and closed for 4. Comparing this to other cities, this number is extremely remarkable. We have a fantastic park maintenance staff that takes wonderful care of our rinks and takes pride in that. And that's the reason that we are open so much. If you're asking people in other communities that skate in outdoor rinks, they will tell you that I don't want to brag too much, but the Edina outdoor ice is by far very superior. It's great ice, and even so that we do have some outdoor hockey teams that play on it. So the Edina Hockey Association has practices on the rinks. They typically use the rinks for the youngest age groups, but the whole spectrums from mites to bantam use the outdoor rinks. And the Edina Hockey Association does pay that participant fee for the use of those rinks. I also run an adult hockey league on the rinks. So it's a 4-on-4 hockey league. So that's a fun way for adults to get outside and be active in that. As you can see in the report I gave you, there's some attendance numbers. So when an outdoor rink is, the shelter building is staffed, the rink attendant is responsible for taking attendance every hour. So if an individual is there over 2 hours, they will be counted twice. But you can see the numbers on the report. So this last year, we had a total of 31,394 skaters, which is a 21% increase from the year before. Very, very large number of people using our outdoor rinks. And that's just when the rinks are staffed. Those are the only numbers. I do know that there's several different groups throughout the city that have their specific time and location before the buildings open, where they try to get on the ice so that they can get the best ice in the morning. If you break it down by park, some of the most popular parks are Countryside, Pamela, Weber, and Arden. Arden was open this year for as it was closed in 2018, 2019. And you also see the Strachauer Park's numbers were quite significant difference between last year and this year. I think one of the reasons was because of the Arden Park closure with the close distance between the two parks there. So you can see Weber, Arden, Countryside, and Pamela tend to be the most popular. Some of the reasons I believe are the warming houses. So a lot of the youth athletic hockey teams like larger warming houses for the mites to get all ready, because there's parents in there helping them get ready. So some of them like that. Also, some of those locations also have historically good ice. The conditions, where the sun comes, what trees shade the ice. So just different things like that. And people that skate the outdoor rinks know this stuff. So, looking forward to this next season, I think we might have a few challenges being in a pandemic. Some of the challenges I think we might face are some staffing issues, just making sure that we're keeping our staff safe. I don't know how we're going to be able to recruit staff. I'm not sure if people are going to be jumping at this job or not. I don't know if they're going to, be wanting to do something. Also, some difficulty with social distancing in the shelter buildings, so we might have to determine, keeping our capacity levels low. And so if we're having a hockey team, they might have to come in shifts in order to get dressed and go out to the rink. Also looking at our hours of operation as the school year transitions, perhaps we extend or, tighten up our hours to better serve those students that might not be in school all the time. So just looking at some different things that we can do too. At this time, I'm excited for another year. If you have anybody interested in applying to be an outdoor rink attendant, the job will be posted on September 1st. As I mentioned, we do hire about 50 seasonal staff, so we take a wide range of applicants in order to fulfill that. If anybody has any questions about the outdoor rink operation, I'd be happy to answer them.
Not necessarily a question, Tiffany, but just a comment just from the work that we'd done last year on park and ice rink utilization. Arden Park didn't even make the top 4 when it was open 2 years ago. So I think it's really striking and good to see it at number 2 this year. I think a real good, strong reflection that it attracted a lot of attention with the new warming house and the new ice rink there. So that's certainly good to see. I'd have to go back and look at what our numbers were for Strachauer 2 years ago, but I would assume that within the sphere of that neighborhood that people probably headed over to Arden rather than skated Strachauer, but we should probably take a look and see if that's any indication of life at Strachauer going forward when it drops 50%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great part, Greg. And, you know, you can also look at the facilities that have low attendance numbers. So Strachauer, Highlands, Normandale. All of those facilities are older shelter buildings. So maybe that has something to say about why they're not utilized as much as well.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point as well. Overall, too, it looks like, as you note, it's up 21% year over year. It's up 40% from 2 years ago. So pretty strong. It'd be interesting to compare if there were any differences to number of skating days we had open on those years, but usage continues to climb pretty significantly the last 2 years, which is great.
Yeah, and I have to think this last winter was a little bit warmer too than the one before. So I think maybe even just a little bit is, you know, warmer. People wanted to be outside a little bit more. So that might have something to do with it too.
Yeah.
I'd just like to.
This is Member Miller. I was just regarding that, you know, days open, since that can be have a huge effect. Wonder if you just would put that under, you know, under the first row underneath the years, so that it showed how many actual skating days there were. So it gives a little context. Because, I mean, I don't know, it could be 2019, 2020 had 21% more days open. And that's why we had 21%. I don't know. But if you just threw that in on the row right underneath it, then it would help give some context to it.
Yep, that's a great point, Commissioner Miller. One other tidbit of unique information about our parks is our park maintenance is maintaining them 7 days a week throughout the year. So they get, I think, Christmas Day off. So it's a long season for them, but I think it's one of the reasons why they are in such fantastic shape. And they take pride in doing that as well. They enjoy the positive feedback they hear from the community. So I think that's another reason to call out why they are so extremely popular. It's because the ice is smooth.
I'd like to just add comment to that as well. I think, you know, a lot of the credit goes to Tom Swenson staff, Brian Dristy, and all the park maintenance workers. It is pretty uncommon that other communities put that much dedication into maintaining their rinks. I can speak from experience. And I think that's what really pushes it over the edge, is that pride that they take in it reflects in the product for the community. So it's quite astonishing when you look back at this year that they only had 4 days that they were closed due to weather. Several communities took off just over between the school holiday, just said we just can't make ice at that temperature. So it was really impressive to do that. If you kind of compare that to Centennial Lakes, which also has outdoor skating, they missed, I believe, 9 or 10 days just due to the weather. And that's obviously outdoors in a different situation on the lake, but just where the weather was compared to what the outdoor rinks were, it was quite impressive this year.
Any other comments for Tiffany? Thank you very much for the report. I I have one short comment. I'm in no hurry to hear the little click click because I live right outside of Lewis Ridge, of course. So you can, I wish you all the success this winter, but just not quite yet. So thanks for the report, Tiffany. Item D, and I'm going to direct that to our director.
Thank you again, Chair Itis. It is interesting working on the summary of the finalizing the 2019 plan, continuing on your 2020 plan, and now introducing your 2021 work plan. We'd like to kind of get this in front of you for idea generation this evening. We'd like to finalize a recommendation of where your priorities will be for 2021 at the September meeting, because subsequent to that, before your October meeting, Chair Itis will present your draft work plan to the City Council on October 6th. So we did want to take this evening to have you generate ideas of what you think you'll accomplish for the remainder of this year, where you want to focus next year. Staff will bring that back as kind of formulate your ideas for the September meeting for you to ultimately make a recommendation. In the past, we've kind of obviously looked at prior progress, what's on the horizon, and kind of asked ourselves 3 questions last year. What could we do? What should we do? What will we do? You are heading into a little bit of unknown, as Commissioner Miller stated. You're not aware yet as for where the capital improvement plan will be. Obviously, in the past, you had some major initiatives, some major park projects that came before the commission. Those obviously took quite a bit of amount of your time thinking through Arden Park project, the golf course project, Fred Richards projects. Any one of those projects can therefore then just add a lot of content, a lot of hours to either subgroups or to your meetings. So we're at a little bit of a disadvantage right now, not knowing where that CIP will be and what that means for 2021 or beyond. However, we did kind of want to have you think through where you wanted to be in 21, if you had any thoughts or ideas around that generation. And then obviously, as I indicated, we'll come back in September with kind of a summary for you.
Can I ask, if you were to ask me what I thought 2020 would look like, it wasn't this, obviously. But do you have a sense of, from a management perspective, like what big issues you're looking at for the next year that would be helpful for the commission to dig into and make recommendations around? I mean, it feels so hard right now. There's the unknowns about funding and other issues, but there's also, our summer programming was turned upside down because of the pandemic, and we don't really know where we're going to be next year. I think we all have high hopes for being in a much, much better place, but without, it's really hard to figure out what would be helpful for us to suggest to work on in this current environment. And I wonder if you have all spent some time thinking about that. Just because you had to shift so quickly this year and make a lot of quick decisions. And if there are things that would be helpful for us to weigh in on, even maybe preemptively, as you plan for the many potential future scenarios.
That's a good question. Parallel to this process, staff will also begin kind of creating our 2021 department work plan. So we're kind of at the same stage that the commission would be, is we've not yet formulated that. We've not yet discussed that. Obviously, like the 2020 commission work plan, our department 2020 department plan also got upended tremendously. So if I was to look ahead, I think, obviously we have great concerns about the financial position of everything we do, from programming to parks to the enterprises. I think that was pretty heavily on our mind when we kind of did the joint meeting in June. I would say, again, our fiscal position for enterprises continues to improve, led by the golf course, the arena, even Centennial Lake. So we're making a lot of headway on that fiscal position from where we were earlier. And again, we'll be kind of continuing to update forecasts as things change. One of the things that has recently changed is what's going to happen now with the school systems, right? I think we were all waiting to see what that would look like, if that was going to be in person or if that was going to be distance. I think the other piece that impacts us is where athletics end up. Obviously, fall sports have been postponed. When you think of football, soccer, was it volleyball as well, I believe. For our great concern, what happens then in the winter? What happens to sports like basketball, hockey, volleyball? Obviously, we operate the city gyms where we rent out time. Braymar Arena, will we be having full stands or will it be just teams playing on the ice? So those are things that really concern us right now that, again, like you all, we just don't know. So we're preparing for. What does it mean if we don't sell concessions or have a gate this winter for hockey? That's a big shift for us. So I think obviously the fiscal standpoint of that, staff will really dive into. Looking at it from the commission standpoint, I think one of the items that is on your work plan that I think could be further developed without actually implementing is connections in the community. What does that look like? We need to kind of rehone that process, whether that's telling our success story, telling our condition story, telling our participant story from a variety of levels, from just a demographic standpoint, from a race and equity standpoint, from traditional programming versus a sports side. So, that work plan item, I think, really has some benefit for us, whether we end up still on somewhat of an isolation or a social distance standpoint. How do we connect with our various stakeholders? Or if we're in person, is how do we then better tell that story? I think for each of you in kind of the areas that you've been ingrained kind of in your life, whether it's in sports or programming or anything other, you've kind of seen a lot of the success stories of the community, of the department, of the enterprises. And I think those are those that we want to tell and reinforce and build on. I know one of the things we're most proud of right now that is really a little bit under the radar is our success for our youth program at the golf course. We're seeing the driving range numbers, the tee time numbers, but the success of our youth golf program is just fantastic. When we look at different things of what occurred with the Black Student Union at Edina High School, stepping up and doing the work at 50th in France. So how do we connect better with those groups? So really kind of looking back, we kind of lost that year of connection. We've lost that year of corresponding with neighborhood associations, et cetera, because we're all kind of in this virtual world, and what does it mean? So I think, that one to me kind of looks like a huge one that maybe we can build a foundation there, whether that's materials or presentation decks or whatever it might be that members can take into the community, or we can invite people in, however that looks. I think that connection piece is huge. Again, I think you'll know shortly this fall, depending on timing of, probably not by October 6th, but where the council might be on CIP projects. So that'll be a little bit up in the air. And then I think, just the other piece of where are the other commissions at? What work might come your way pending other commissions. So obviously we've talked about the HRC, the Human Rights and Relations Commission, obviously the Sustainability Commission, knowing where a climate action plan may or may not be, where flood reduction task force information may be. As we kind of wrote in the progress report for those 4 commissioners that are waiting, there is a study session on September 1 on the Morningside flood strategy. So things to pay attention that might be headed our way. We'll invite the water resources engineer in from the city, probably talk maybe in October and have her give an update on what flood reduction looks like. Obviously, stormwater has to go somewhere. You've seen how it works at Arden. You've seen, if you've been to Bredesen lately or Lewis, 3.5 inches of rain last night has caused us some issues, right? So it all is kind of intertwined a little bit. So I think off the cuff, those are kind of maybe three of the areas that that you could probably focus on.
Yeah, Chair, I think about this. I don't have any detailed thoughts, but at a high level, I'd have four broad areas we might consider. One will certainly be carryover from 2020. The second would be driven by fund. We need funding for our master plans. They're fast becoming stale. So if we can get some funding for, even, I think as Perry noted, even if we can prioritize a bit and begin to carve off phases, I think we need to push for what we can do if we get some funding for master plans. Third would be looking back at our strategic plan that is now about, call it 5 years old, and see if there are any objectives to be pulled out of there, or even think about a renewal or a refresher, not a whole new strategic plan, but are there parts of that that need to be refreshed? And then the last would be, we got final approval of our comp plan this year. So certainly there should be some items flowing out of comp plan that could make a work plan list for next year. So those would be some high level groupings that I would consider we'd be thinking about.
Any other comments at this time? Thanks, Greg, for those. I made a couple notes. Those are some good, very good thoughts there. Anything else to add, Director?
No, I know Janet was able to promote Commissioner McCauley, Nelson, and Willette into the room as participants now. So I'm not sure if they are able to mute or unmute if they have anything to add. But I just wanted to make sure that they knew that they were now as panelists, which is the term where the commissioners reside in the virtual room.
Thank you. I'm good.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Chair and Commissioners, then I think staff can maybe formulate some of this. We can look at 2020 plan. We can look at the other items that we've discussed this evening and bring back a draft of ideas for you to react to in September.
Very good. I think we can proceed to item 7. Member comments.
Sorry. I had a question, and I don't know who's to direct it to, but someone on staff. But I went for a walk with my wife. We tried to switch up the environment. We went around Lake Cornelia. We happened to come up on the path that we talked about last fall. Maybe, I don't know, it feels like it was a while ago, but it was the path that was part of the reclamation project that is on the south side of Lake Cornelia. Well, I guess the South Lake Cornelia on the west shoreline there, that starts from 66th Street and goes along behind the house, West Shore Drive. I just happened to take a walk on it and saw that it was kind of implemented. Someone's at my house, so that's when my dog was barking. Anyways, so I just wanted to know kind of some updates. When I walked it, I noticed that when we talked about this before, that they said that there was going to only be things like 3 feet high, but I saw 3 oak trees, and I'm pretty sure they're already over 3 feet high that were planted along that path. I noticed that the the bark trail didn't go all the way to the street. I don't know if it had washed away or not. I just wanted to know what was the update on that path and stuff, since we had discussed it here in this forum.
I can give an update, Commissioner Darlene. So the path was just installed. It does not connect up to 66th Street because there's not a safe crossing at that point. So it's designed kind of as a loop. Eventually there'll be a bench at that end, and there'll be a bench over at Laguna. Any of the trees that were in place that were natural were left in place. So there are some taller items in there, but the plant materials that were put in the ground are designed to be 3 feet or less. There still is some buckthorn removal that's ongoing. It's a 3-year process. So what you see today is not what you'll see in 3 years as it slowly transforms, kind of like the golf course did. Year 1, it was pretty ragged, and year 2 and 3, it just keeps improving every year.
That makes sense. I guess there were, and I don't know if it was the homeowner did it, but I don't know the address. It is 4 houses in on the east side of West Shore Drive. It is a house that's for sale. There are 3 new oak trees that were planted between the path and the lake. And those trees, I'm guessing, will be like 50 feet tall. So I'm just wondering if there was a miscommunication, if there was something, because I did have a homeowner come and talk to me and said that there was under the assumption that it was going to be 3 feet, and those are already over 3 feet. So I just want to be able to report back, or if they're watching in this meeting tonight, they can hear what the rationalization. I don't know if it was the homeowner that did it, if there's needs to be something rectified, but that was my observation.
Yeah, thanks again. I'll check into it. At this point, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Perry, do you have any information on the bridge that was built at the wetlands in Highlands Park by the warming house? Like what went on there, and we communicate with the neighbors that can't be done?
Maybe Tom would want to take that one. I know our engineering department facilitated the removal of that bench. Maybe Tom wants to give a little bit more background about what Commissioner McCauley is referring to.
Yeah, so that one, residents used wood material from all the woods in the area and filled the wetland, which isn't allowed. If you could fill wetlands, we'd have paths all over the place. So it ended up being kind of a sticky situation, but staff didn't want to force, a lot of hours went into putting that into the water. Staff didn't want to force one person to take it all out. So we did use our ICWC workforce that we have a couple of days a week, and they've been removing it. They're close to being done, but they're not quite complete yet. And then we'll use some equipment to move the material off site.
As far as the communications on that, I believe it did go through our engineering department as a water quality concern, and the city engineer did communicate with, I believe, some of the residents in the area and actually identified the person that built it. If I'm not, if Assistant Director Swenson, yes. So I did work with the person that did do the filling and is helping rectify that.
So the part that I saw that was left, I don't think I would have walked on that thing.
For those commissioners that probably are imagining what we're referring to, it was probably, I would say, 35 yards long, about 5 feet wide, and just filled with odd pieces of wood that was collected throughout the woods in the area and just continually filled into the wetland to cross between 2 pieces of land. So very unsteady, very rustic, but also very illegally filled into the wetland.
Any other member comments? I have a couple. July 16th, I walked the Fred Richards with the mayor and a group of people, probably about a dozen or so, and got very good and favorable comments about the new playground. At least the few times that I've driven by there, there seems to be kids, in many cases, a lot of kids playing on it. There was a representative there from Hillcrest and trying to be as positive as she could, but I think realistic with all the lack of development probably that may happen in that area, and perhaps more remodeling of the Pentagon buildings there. She didn't get into a lot of detail, but made it in passing. I was going to ask either the director or the assistant director, any damage other than the tree on the golf course to any of our parks from last night?
I believe the Sunday night rain into Monday morning, I think our rain gauges recorded post midnight at least 3.5 inches of rain. We had a lot of standing water on our golf courses, obviously in many of our parks. When we get that much rain at once, obviously it's got to go somewhere. So if it's not going through a pipe or a swale or through a rain garden, it's going to back up. So I believe, again, we've had localized flooding in the Bredesen Park trails. I believe some of Lewis Park. Chair, I just mentioned the golf course. We did lose one tree there. Overnight, I believe we were cart path only today on the Academy course and no carts on the championship course. In addition, we had a number of water penetrations into some of our facilities. The Art Center, Edinboro Park. It was pretty tough timing for our Edinboro Park Plaza project. We've got that plaza exposed as we're trying to remedy that concrete plaza and continue the waterproofing membrane. So having that exposed, we ended up getting a number of leaks into the facility because of that. So it was a challenging day to kind of dry out some of those facilities as well. Nothing of a crucial standpoint or anything that was permanently damaged, but we're always concerned with facilities and parks, water. It's always about the water. Where does it go? And we want it to go slow and steady and not as fast as it did. So it was an eventful morning, kind of seeing all the impacts to the rain last night. But all in all, I think we weathered well. Could have been a lot worse, as you've kind of seen some of the photos from out west or even down south within the state. So we were very fortunate last night with that storm.
One other just short comment. The director had mentioned the golf course before. Having been over there, I don't know, most every day this summer. The fact that, we just headed into August and there's been 46,000 rounds played there already. And you can go over like this afternoon and I counted 58 people on the driving range the day after a 5-inch rain. So we certainly have one enterprise that is doing a great job. And when I hear Tiffany talk about the staff, all the young people that I've certainly met over these 3.5 months at the golf course are just doing a great job. In some respects, we've put them in an environment that's certainly risk to them, but I think they're doing quite well. And certainly the management is doing a great job at the golf course. So that's all I have. So if there's any others, if not, we'll proceed to the staff comments.
I just have one question. Looking at the what's on the website regarding the dome, the Braymar Field dome, it just says it will start up again in the fall or the autumn. I'm wondering if there is any kind of more set plan for reopening that dome.
Yes, Commissioner Miller. Obviously, we did leave up the dome this summer due to the pandemic. We didn't have the resources to take that down. We kind of covered that in the June meeting about, we did kind of a financial analysis around that, and it would save us money. Currently staff, we don't have any set dates. However, we are working on opening plans for both the sports dome and the golf dome to kind of launch those this fall. So we don't have any exact dates set yet. However, we hope to do that soon, and then we would update the council, the commission, and the community, especially those users that rely on that. Once we finalize that, we still need to kind of work through a lot of the protocols that we'll do. Once we do go back to operations, those are going to be a little bit of a challenge for us. So we really want to make sure we get that right heading into the fall season. But you're right, it will be approaching soon.
Thank you.
If you want to go ahead, Director, to your staff comments would be fine.
Sure, I'll just provide just a couple of quick updates. The city council updates. We did not have anything on the July agenda, July 21st. On August 5th, we did have two purchases. One, Assistant Director Swenson will be overlaying a portion of the Bredesen Park parking lot. We do hope to schedule that yet this fall. We'll communicate that out to users. Should be a very quick project, but that parking lot is in need of replacement. The other piece is we did request, the council did approve purchase of additional recycling containers for our park system and our enterprise locations. That purchase is funded in whole by a recycling grant from Hennepin County. So that expansion of recycling in the park system will come at no cost to the Edina residents. So we're already recycling in those areas. This will just be an expansion of the number of containers that you will see out in those areas. So those were kind of the two city council updates from your last meeting. As far as informational items, just a couple of quick things in your packet that we did want to highlight. Online activity registration will begin next Wednesday, August 19th. So please set your calendars for that. Because of our experience this last spring with publishing a directory, hosting registration, and then shortly thereafter having to adjust to what we can accommodate. Assistant Director Peterson and her staff really worked hard on what we could do online, a little bit virtual, to try to get that word out. So we didn't have to go through the expense of publishing a directory that would have had a greater lead time for us to kind of plan those unknowns. This also allowed us to kind of make adjustments to programming, whether it was days, times, or class sizes based on guidance, kind of right up to the last moment. We'll still be able to add programs to that site. So kudos to her and the staff. So for really thinking through what that could be, so we don't get in a situation again where we expend a lot of resources and have to kind of retrace our steps. So that will occur next Wednesday, August 19th for Edina residents to register. So please check that out. The other two projects, Arden Park, the project updates. So that last remaining phase is where we're stuck at with the project team, and that is the landscaping piece of that. We hope to have some additional information from the watershed district on schedule and schedule for activities and the schedule for planting phases and time. So once we do get that, we do want to communicate that out to the community. We are getting a lot of inquiries on that project, and it is not done, and it's to our standards as of yet. I think we've all received great feedback on the design. However, we need to finish this last phase of landscaping. We did get a number of questions about the orange fencing around the building. The landscaping contractor wanted to install that because they were getting a lot of cut-through traffic, stepping on plants, and they would like to install that temporarily. It's not permanent, it's temporarily, to try to prevent that compaction from happening. I did mention just very earlier the Edinboro Park entrance project. Obviously, that is ongoing. So we are kind of in that phase of where we're trying to waterproof the plaza and the sub layers before we can put the plaza back together. Obviously, yesterday's rain did not help, but we'll continue to work forward on that. We do have a very good contractor on that project, so they're very good to work with. However, we just need to, as the rest of us kind of spend our time out there, we need to get some momentum on that project to get that finished. Braymar Arena has hosted a number of tournaments this summer, so we have been working through what crowd management could look like if we do end up with a busier winter season. The staff out there has been doing a good job of trying to think creatively and working with the various tournaments on how to safely get people in and out of the building. If you've been to Braymar Arena, we do have some pretty strict protocols out there, and I think it's kind of our commitment to trying to do things safely in the right way at this time. So as I've talked to a number of people, we'd really like to see the bigger crowds this winter. Right now, we're trying to limit that exposure level and really learn to get people in and out of the building safely. Our outdoor shelter reservations are online. People have been reserving those. For our picnic shelters, that is a social limit of 25 people. And indoor, it's a limit of 10. So we're still following the state of Minnesota guidance on that. But you can reserve and even view availability online at this point. Just a reminder, I know I've kind of talked about this every meeting, but the Hennepin County Library project will begin on August 17th. That will continue the closure of the city's portion of that facility, the senior center, into November. Hennepin County is managing that project. The Braymar Golf Junior Club Championship will be held August 22nd. So those participants were sent out information, but if you know anyone that's in the junior program that wants to participate in the championship, they can register for that. And again, that'll be Saturday the 22nd. We had a question last month on the pickleball policy. We've not heard feedback on that yet. In discussing with staff, we'll do some proactive outreach this fall once kind of the season closes to see if there are any changes or adjustments we need to do for the following year. And then some of you may have been contacted or may have seen our park. Assistant Director Swenson might comment on this, but we are seeing a large number of graffiti calls in our parks this year. So if residents do see that, they can report that through the police non-emergency number. Each instance of graffiti is kind of taken pretty serious. It is photographed and documented for analysis, and then through that process, the Parks Maintenance Department is dispatched to go clean that up. So whether you contact us or the police directly, we will always run that through the police department to try to manage that and kind of keep statistics on how much that is occurring. But that is not uncommon as any of our other peer cities as well. We are seeing an uptick in that in some of our peer cities as well. And those are the informational updates I had for you this evening. And then just a quick note on your upcoming meeting and events. We'll be back to Tuesday meeting. Obviously, your meeting this evening was on a Monday due to the state primary tomorrow. But your next meeting is September 8th. And then Commissioner Itis will present the work plan on Tuesday, October 6th. Then your following will have an October 13th regular meeting. We don't yet know what the status or style of your meetings will going forward. We're kind of taking that direction from our administrative department, and we'll kind of know that on a month-to-month basis. But again, for those of you that are either watching or participating that had some technical issues going in, I apologize for those. And we'll make sure we keep working out the bugs in this process for you.
Thank you. It's time to entertain that motion for adjournment. And second, please.
So move.
Second.
You'll do the roll call, Director?
I will. Commissioner Doskich?
Aye.
Commissioner Good?
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Strother,
Aye.
Commissioner Willett,
Aye.
Commissioner McCauley, Commissioner Darlene,
Aye.
Commissioner Ida.
Aye. I think. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good evening.
That
Bye-bye.
adjourns our meeting.
Commissioner Osborne, good luck at school.
Good luck, Brian.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck, Brian.